start with, let me welcome you to our first webinar on the Colorado First Year Guarantee. My name is Erica Petmeyer, and I serve as our Director of Admissions here at University of Northern Colorado. I do want to make sure that everyone's aware we have a staff that is available to answer any questions. So if something comes up either throughout our presentation tonight, or if you have questions at the end, just know that we have a team of folks behind the scenes that are here to answer any questions. So again, thanks for being here. Our agenda today is laid out in front of you. I want to make sure that we all start on the same page with a little bit of insight on UNC, and then we will dive right into a discussion on our very unique Colorado First Year Guaranteed Admission Program. And then we'll talk about the process to becoming a bear. So the application process, and certainly a part of that is scholarship opportunities. And then we'll open it up for questions. We've got about 20 to 30 minutes scheduled. So if you're wondering how much time we'll be spending together, that'll give you a better idea. So without further ado, let's dig into a UNC overview. University of Northern Colorado is located in Greeley, Colorado. We're about 45, 50 minutes north, a little bit east of Denver. And I think what we love and appreciate about Greeley is that it's a small community, the sense of community, the ability to build community and network and have relationships, and also have the amenities of a big city. This part of Northern Colorado, for folks who are not familiar, is one of the fastest growing regions, not only in our state, but in the country. And what that means is that that's an increasing amount of opportunity for our students to get out into the local businesses and local schools, different environments, depending on what your academic major interests might be, and to be able to build a resume of experience that becomes really influential as you start to think about what your next steps are. It also means that outside of the classroom, our students have access to an incredibly creative community. We are nationally well known for our performing arts programs, and so that certainly creates a very artistic community around us. And the opportunity to be part of some really unique events. First Fridays are a whole lot of fun. So Fridays where we all get a chance to go into downtown Greeley and listen to some live music and see some familiar faces. So if you haven't been to see us yet, we certainly hope that you're able to make a trip and not just check out UNC, but check out Greeley, because it's certainly a part of being a UNC student. When we think about the history of UNC, we were founded as a state normal school. For those who are maybe less familiar with what that means, that's really a designation of institutions founded for the purpose of preparing future educators. And so we then transitioned into being a Colorado Teachers College, and fast forward to today being the University of Northern Colorado, now offering certainly well beyond the programs in education, which we are very well known for as a part of our history. But been able to expand beyond that. One thing that I think is really important, I myself studied education as an undergraduate and taught high school for a couple of years, is that the value for students, whether you're interested in becoming a teacher in your future or not, the real value for students in being in a community that understands how to teach and understands how people learn. And so you get this really interesting environment of faculty and students and staff that are engaged in having a growth mindset. You know, that students come here to grow and learn, and that's been a part of who we are from the very beginning. Who we are today is a fast-growing institution with a lot of national recognition that stems from both creating a sense of belonging, if you're looking at things like a Pride Index, to being really proud of our placement rate. 91% of our graduates within 6 months of graduation have secured placement either in a job of their choice or within a career pathway. That could potentially mean admission to graduate or professional school, that our students are really, really well prepared. And that shows up also in our social mobility ranking. And so social mobility, which is a measure of a student's ability to come in, have an affordable college experience, and ultimately leave our institution prepared to have a comfortable experience where you're not sort of struggling through debt over a long period of time. And so I think that's a really important measure of value, that our students are able to have access to the kinds of experiences that lead to success upon graduation. When we talk about our students, who am I referring to? So on campus in total, we have about 9,000 students. And if you look at the makeup of those students, Most of them are Colorado residents, although a growing number of students who are anticipating about a 24% percent of students that are not from the state of Colorado in this next incoming class. So certainly the majority of our students are Colorado residents, but we represent over 46 countries and a mix of students that certainly have identities beyond what's listed here. So first generation students being the first in their family to earn a four-year college degree. And as we start to look beyond identity, I think the big takeaway is that this is an incredibly diverse community of people celebrating their differences and pursuing academic interests that would fall in line with one of 5 academic colleges. So we have well over 100 undergraduate programs of study. Each of those programs of study is going to fall within one of our 5 academic colleges. So as students start to, depending on where you're at in your college search process, as you're starting to look at programs that are available to you, we can certainly answer your questions. We've got some great information on our website, and we know that that's an important part of the process. We're also really excited about what's happening in the health sciences. We're prepared to open a new College of Osteopathic Medicine or medical school as early as fall 2025. So very well known for the work that we do in the health sciences. And it's certainly a list of programs that's growing and opportunities that we anticipate expanding in the near future. So a lot of exciting things happening for our students. Regardless of program of study, college of study, our students should come in expecting to have a hands-on educational experience in class sizes where you have a chance to be on a first name basis with your professor and get to know the students in your classroom. So whether you're in the UNC honors program or not, you're going to have access to the kind of environment where you can ask questions, where you can have study groups and connect with students that are sharing your class schedule and feel like you are building community around your academic experience, with students oftentimes finding themselves in classes that are somewhere between 25 to 50 students. Certainly that varies depending on program of study and what year you are. You also have access to a lot of experiential learning that could take place through involvement in centers and institutes, and again, the UNC honors program. So always happy to answer questions, and we would invite you to come check us out in person so that you can sort of see for yourself what do our classrooms look like and connect with not just our counselors, but our current students and faculty. Outside of the classroom, the student life at UNC varies depending on what the student's interests are. So if you're someone who sees themselves on a stage and you're a performer, then you may be part of one of these 300 plus annual performances. Maybe you're someone, maybe more like myself, who enjoys music and the arts and wants to be in the crowd and wants to observe the kind of performance where you feel a sense of pride and entertainment. I think that's part of the purpose. As a former college athlete myself, I maybe feel more comfortable on a stage of sports, whether that be club or intramural or Division I sports. And all of this is surrounded by over 100 student organizations, a lot of campus employment opportunities, and the ability to build community in a variety of ways. I think one of the most impactful ways that our students build community is through our campus housing options. Being familiar with other institutions, I can tell you that our campus housing options are really spectacular. And that as a first-year student, that typical maybe storyline of that's a really nice residence hall, but you get to live here, that doesn't exist for us at UNC. At UNC, you have access to literally every single campus housing option as a first-year incoming student. And so the opportunity to live in a space that fits both your cost plans and what you seek in terms of an experience. So that's pet-friendly housing, that's living in an honors community, that might be an academic interest connection with 13 learning communities. There are a lot of options, and with different community and suite style experiences, you have a chance to really think about the kind of living experience that you want. And beyond just having a place to live, this is about building community. The other thing that's really unique is that students can actually pick the room that they live in. And so the self-assignment is what we would call that as early as March of 2024, what it would be for students planning on entering next year, that you can actually determine the specific room location in the specific hall that you're interested in. And so students, they get a head start on the housing process, see a lot of benefit in being able to think about and have some control over exactly the kind of experience that you want. This includes having an opportunity to select a roommate, of course, and make those connections along the way. When we think about campus dining, there's some up and coming opportunities for campus dining. So several locations, with the most recent improvements being to our university center and having a full suite of meal options, meal exchange options, a new outdoor porch that we're all really excited about, especially come fall. And as you'll see highlighted on this slide, 2 mobile food trucks. So we know that when it comes to staying academically engaged, it's important that you eat and that you stay healthy. So the ability to have the food come to you, to have 2 mobile food trucks on campus is something that will kick off, we anticipate this fall, and a full redesign and sort of new construction project that you can find some more information on our social and online, for Toby Kendall Hall, that we anticipate will take a little bit over a year to complete, should be ready for next fall's incoming class, but a totally different redesigned dining option. So that is a little bit of an overview on UNC. If it's not apparent to everyone, I'll just add that it's difficult for us to cover UNC in any amount of time. So this is certainly just an introduction, but why you're here is to talk about the Colorado First Year Guarantee. So without further ado, I will dig into this. To take advantage of the Colorado First Year Admissions Guarantee, it is as simple as a student submitting an application for admission by March 1. So we think March 1 is sort of a guarantee in saying this is important to get your materials in by March 1. That does not mean if a student were to, say, be looking to enroll in the fall, there is some opportunity to do that, that if a student met these requirements, that they would not still qualify. I'll talk about the requirements here in a moment, but the benefit really is that we're working to fast track the admissions process. We know, and I think that the data is very clear, that there is stress around whether students are going to be admitted. There's certainly, I think, nationally some conversation around admissions that are taking place and that are certainly top of mind with the most recent Supreme Court decision. And last year, in kicking off the Colorado First Year Guarantee, our intention was to take the guesswork out of this. We know that we are going to extend an offer of admission to any student that is qualified to succeed here. And so by implementing a first year guarantee, our goal is to allow students to kind of take a deep breath, to not wonder, and to get a head start, right? That we can celebrate, we can put you in a position to have access to other scholarship applications, to make sure that you take the stress out of the uncertainty, am I going to ultimately be admitted? And that we want to set you up for success and get through this admissions process as quickly as possible. So how does the first year guarantee work? Upon submission of the required materials, which for virtually every student is going to be a high school transcript, if a student meets the requirements as outlined here on this slide, that you would receive a fast track to admission. And so a current Colorado high school student with a 3.0 weighted GPA, that's a cumulative overall GPA, that has 4 years of English, 4 years of math, or 3 years of math with that B in Algebra 2, 3 years of a physical or lab science, and 3 years of a social science. We certainly expect that a student would be on track and would need to ultimately graduate from high school. That's a requirement not just of admission for us, but ultimately to receive federal financial aid. A student would have to complete high school graduation requirements and, of course, that March 1 deadline. One of the questions that we get quite often, and I think is a completely fair question, is what if I'm not attending a Colorado high school, or what if I am not a Colorado resident student? And it's important to outline, and I want people to take away a sense of confidence that these first year guarantee requirements do extend beyond Colorado residents and ultimately are utilized to expedite admission for students who meet those requirements, regardless of whether you are a current Colorado high school student or not. It's the guarantee piece of that that we have yet to expand beyond the state of Colorado, but this guarantee actually doesn't change any of our process. It just makes our process more transparent. And so I could certainly see a way forward, and would go on record in saying that I would anticipate that this first year guarantee would be extended beyond the state of Colorado in the future. But for the next cycle, it will still be a guarantee for Colorado students that applies broadly for students that are not Colorado residents or not studying currently in the state of Colorado. So that's an exciting thing that we want to make sure folks are aware of. It's also important to note that the coursework that's outlined isn't per se the recommended coursework for all incoming students. And what I mean by that is that if a student is, for example, planning to pursue a career in the health sciences, that it would be wise for you to continue to take beyond 3 years of a physical science, and that especially if you've met the math requirement of a B in Algebra 2, that you would do yourself a favor and continue to pursue courses that are math intensive. A similar experience or example might exist for a student that's planning to pursue a career in the arts, right? That we haven't outlined any of the additional coursework beyond the core areas of study, and that it would certainly behoove a student and be in your best interest to continue to take courses in the areas that you are most excited about and that you feel best represent your interests and prepare you for what your post high school experience might look like. So again, always happy to provide more information. I think we have an outstanding staff of admissions counselors that can help to have a personalized conversation. If these aren't the recommended courses, what do you recommend I take? We can certainly have that conversation, but want to make sure people are aware of the fact that these are not the recommended courses. This is the minimum coursework in order to be guaranteed admission. Guaranteed admission does not apply to performing arts programs that require an additional application or audition or interview process. So how this ultimately works, I'll use musical theater, one of our most popular programs, as an example. If a student is applying to musical theater, they can be directly admitted to the university in an awaiting audition environment. And if they ultimately don't proceed to successfully complete the audition or interview process, then we would admit a student to an alternate program that is a non-competitive program. Or if a student were to complete the process, and our hopeful outcome is that it's successful and we're congratulating you on your admission to a highly competitive program, that would happen post general admission to the university. So the first year guarantee doesn't mean that as a student interested in studying musical theater here, that if I meet those requirements, that I'm automatically going to be admitted to musical theater. It would mean that I would be guaranteed admission to the university, with the caveat that I would have to meet additional requirements to be directly admitted into musical theater. So happy to answer questions on that front as well, but important to highlight for awareness purposes. It is as simple as that. So let's talk about the process to becoming a UNC Bear. I'm going to cover admissions, scholarships, and a little bit of financial aid as a part of this portion of the presentation. And to start out with, just to give some awareness of dates. So right around the corner, we are gearing up for the fall application to open on August 1. And that application is both accessible through our Bear app or the Common application. There is, and I'll talk a little more about this, there's no preference to either of those. We have a December 1 early action deadline. How we use that application deadline is if a student completes the process by December 1, we make a guarantee as a team that we will stick around as long as we need to get a student an admissions decision before the first of the year, which ultimately means before we go on holiday break as a university. And so we work awfully hard that time frame between December 1 and December 20 to be able to get as many decisions out as we possibly can. So I think there's value as a student in being able to clear this process as quickly as possible, and knowing that if I'm able to get that done by December 1st, I'm going to have a decision before the new year. And it's going to give me a lot of time to proceed through, depending on who you are, what your next steps are. So the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, or the CASFA, which is the Colorado application for student financial aid, those priority deadlines are March 1. And with some changes to the FAFSA coming up and really taking place right now, we're still anticipating that March 1 deadline will be a priority deadline. And that aligns as well with our first year guarantee deadline. So anything a student can do to apply early, and if you're attending this webinar, then I think you're right on track for that. Really create some space to make the most informed decision and set yourself up for the most opportunities possible. So completing your application is pretty straightforward for us. We try to make it the least amount of required materials possible, while also leaving some space for you to submit things that maybe you've invested a lot of time and energy in and that we really enjoy reading. So the Bear application or the Common application, for those who are not familiar, Common App is an application that is accepted by hundreds, literally hundreds of colleges and universities around the country. The value for you as a student is we're all ultimately asking you the same questions, more or less. And so you work on one application, and you can then submit that application to multiple colleges and universities. We have one additional page that's specific to UNC, and that application would serve as a complete application for admission, or you can choose to do our Bear app. We ask the same questions, but it's a little bit shorter. And so depending on how your college search is being put together, I'll tell you that my general advice to a student is if 2 or more of your schools, if you're looking at a list of 2 or more schools that accept Common Application, then it would be in your best interest to complete a Common App. If you're only doing a Common Application for UNC, you could save yourself some time by completing the Bear app. In addition to the application, the $50 application fee or an application fee waiver. Since you're all here, I'll give you a little tip. Connecting with your admissions counselor is by far the most effective way to save yourself $50. So there are some free application days that we will host. There's Colorado free application days that take place in October. Some students choose to wait to free app days. Other students want to get an earlier start. Connecting with your admissions counselor presents the opportunity for you all to have a conversation and for them to extend one of their fee waiver codes that they're issued to be able to save you and your family money. So it's important to us that we build a relationship. You know, UNC is a relationship-based institution, and that starts with admissions and with making sure that you know that we are here to help you through the process, because it can be really stressful. Beyond those 2 pieces, it's a high school transcript. We do accept unofficial transcripts so long as it is a complete transcript that shows all of the courses and grades for your entire high school experience. So for many students, this is as simple as using Naviance as a resource to send us a transcript that is a complete transcript through the end of your junior year. We do accept unofficial high school transcripts for the purpose of admission. You would just have to ultimately come back and submit an official transcript as a part of the enrollment process. So anything we can do to make it easier. And then if you have a personal statement that you've written or an essay that you've written, any letters of recommendation, if you have test scores, these are all materials that are optional. And I think the best way to explain what that means is we will not hold up your application for optional materials. So maybe you've requested a letter of recommendation from your counselor, but we have your application, you've submitted a fee waiver code, we've received your transcript. We are going to proceed through that process and not delay in getting you an admissions decision as soon as we possibly can. So as far as automatic scholarships, upon submission of a complete application, students are automatically considered for scholarships. Our scholarship levels vary depending on residency. So for Colorado residents, we've got a unique suite of opportunities. And then for students that are in WUI states or the Western Undergraduate Exchange, which you'll see noted in blue, and then non-resident international students are also considered for admission scholarships upon completion. And so you'll see at the bottom of this slide that we notify you at the time of admission. It's within your decision letter. And that while we have some distance online, hybrid, other campus programs, these scholarships do require that a student is studying on our Greeley campus. Those scholarship levels are quite generous and certainly intended to be a first step to creating an affordable opportunity for you. So again, based on residency, you'll see these values listed here. This is a GPA range. And so if you haven't put this together, something that I am really proud of is that if a student meets the first year guarantee requirements, not only are they guaranteed admission, but they're also guaranteed an academic scholarship. And so that 3.0 GPA, for any of you who are maybe earlier in your high school experience, if this isn't the motivation that you needed, hopefully it is, to know that your GPA is really important, especially with schools being test optional. We do not currently, since that test optional experience changed across the state, the test score is not required, nor is it utilized in the awarding of any academic scholarships. We also will use your weighted GPA calculated on a 4.0 scale. So if you've taken some AP classes, or maybe you're in an IB program and you have a weighted GPA, we will utilize that weighted GPA for the purpose of awarding scholarship, as well as for the first year guarantee. We do have a number of supplemental applications, some of which will give you access to additional scholarship and funding. So I mentioned the musical theater example. For our College of Visual and Performing Arts, there are absolutely scholarship opportunities that are tied to the audition interview process. And so those decisions are made exclusively by the staff and faculty within the College of Visual and Performing Arts. And that application process can look different depending on the program. So I'll use an example of a student maybe studying acting would be expected to have an interview experience, where a student maybe studying in design and technology within our theater department would more likely have an audition as opposed to, or excuse me, would have an interview as opposed to an audition. And so that process can look a little bit different from program to program, but there is the opportunity to put yourself in a position to stack scholarships. So our automatic scholarships are stackable with any additional scholarship that you might receive, whether that's from UNC or whether that's through some outside scholarship source. So anything we can do to make it more affordable, we're hoping to work with you to make this the option that you feel really excited about and that feels affordable for you and your family. One way we do that is through the UNC Foundation Scholarship application. And so, like many universities, we have a supplemental application in which you can submit an application that will actually tell you you're qualified for all of these additional scholarships. So we'll make it as easy as possible for you to put yourself in as many hats for which you qualify. So this could be a first generation scholarship opportunity. It could be a UNC legacy scholarship opportunity, to offer maybe a couple of common examples. Important to note is that there's over $1 million awarded annually through this one application, and that this application is available to you not just as an incoming student, but is available to you as a current student. And so whether something comes of this process initially, I would recommend that you get into the habit of completing this application on a yearly basis. For students that are incoming first-year students, there's a February 1 priority deadline, but it's important to note the priority. There are also scholarship opportunities available to students who submit after the February 1 deadline. So we will make this available to any student admitted, regardless of what that time frame is, to make sure that if there are opportunities, you have a chance to take advantage of them. The supplemental application, where there are a limited number of scholarship opportunities available and applying early will make a difference, is the UNC Honors Program. We can certainly help you connect with information about the UNC Honors Program. But their supplemental application is holistic review, it's by committee, and it does present an opportunity for students to join a really close-knit community of highly engaged scholars that you may or may not be interested in, and would become available upon admission for students that have a recommended GPA, but there is no minimum GPA. So that doesn't mean you have to have a 3.5. And there are some priority deadlines to put yourself, again, in the best position possible to have access to that opportunity. From there, it really comes down to applying for financial aid. And applying for financial aid looks either one of two ways. Either you're submitting the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid, or the Colorado application. We can help you to understand what the qualification would be, either submitting the COSFA or the FAFSA. The vast majority of our students are submitting the FAFSA. And for those who are not aware, there is a FAFSA Simplification Act that is underway at the federal level and will ultimately, I think we all hope, simplify the application process for financial assistance. From the conversations I've been a part of, and I think our team is keeping on top of what this might look like in the future, it should simplify the process, and it should really help us to ensure that we are extending resources to students that qualify, and that we have the information that we need to appropriately and I think thoughtfully extend financial assistance to students that are the most needy and that ultimately have submitted that application by the March 1 deadline. So if you are working on a family calendar or otherwise paying attention to deadlines, I think if you put on your calendar February 1 as a target date to make sure that you have the FAFSA in, that will allow any time if you need to do any corrections. But the Simplification Act will allow you to sort of import data in a way that in previous years was more difficult. So that also, in terms of qualifying for financial assistance, that would make a student potentially eligible for grants or gift aid. Always accept gift aid. Student loans for those who are willing or interested in making any considerations of investing in your experience. And then federal work study. A student does not have to qualify for federal work study to have a job on campus, but it certainly opens up access to opportunities for jobs on campus that might not otherwise exist. Probably of all of the stats and the data that we talk about pretty regularly, the one that I am most proud of is that one at the bottom of this slide, which is that 98% of UNC students receive some type of financial assistance, be that scholarships, grants, other types of financial assistance, work study, that this is an institution that's really committed to doing as much as we can to present you with an affordable option. Other types of financial aid varies by students and families, but we want to make sure that you're thinking about it and maybe starting to consider this as early in the process as possible. There are a lot of outside scholarship opportunities. I think it ultimately comes down to how much time and energy you're willing to invest. And I always encourage students to go through the institutional application and scholarship process first. If you've got a list of a few schools, look at their scholarship opportunities first, and then maybe take an eye to outside scholarships depending on your timeline. A couple other data points. We mentioned we're #1 in social mobility. We're also #1 in having the lowest debt at graduation amongst the Colorado 4-year public doctoral institutions. And when it comes to making the most out of your college experience, anything you can do to graduate and to do that with the lowest debt possible, or no debt ideally, is certainly the best way to set yourself up for, I think, a long time career of success that allows you the opportunity to make the decisions that are right for you. So very, very proud of that. With that, I will extend to questions. I'll kind of allow that to sit. Hopefully you've been chatting with our team if you have any questions. I muted myself. There we go. Does the GPA average scholarship count your senior year too, or is it just freshman through junior? It's a really good question. So it's a little bit of a yes and. At the time of admission, we're going to use your GPA, which typically is going to be freshman through junior year. Now, we have had some students who have come back and said, hey, I'm taking a really strong senior schedule and I'm doing really well. And my GPA, let's say I was at a 3.78 weighted when I applied, but with my senior year coursework in the fall, I was able to get myself up to a 3.81. We would absolutely allow a student to request reconsideration for scholarships. And this year, the deadline for that to be automatically increased was May 1. So there is some opportunity there. Next question I see, when you say 4 years of English, does that mean 4 credits of English in high school? So it's difficult to graduate from a US public high school in particular without 4 years of English. It's almost always a requirement. With the 4 credits, it somewhat varies depending on what your school calendar is. So some students are on a block calendar where it's a 4x4, where it might be 4 credits per year or 2 credits per year, depending on how the school is structured. So ultimately what that means is 4 years of English in reference to your school's academic environment and your school's calendar. So again, not intended to mislead anyone, more intended to be inclusive, to say not everyone's academic setup in their school is exactly the same. Other questions? Knowing that we're all available to help throughout this entire process, I just want to extend an invitation to all of those attending to come and visit campus. We have released our fall visit day event dates. Registration will open August 1, if not before. And so through this QR code, if you want to check out those dates, maybe mark your calendar. We've got Experience UNC, we have an honors program visit day, we have a STEM and health sciences visit day. So as you sort of think about what your fall visit opportunities might look like, we also host daily information sessions. We have twice daily, select Saturdays. There's a really great opportunity to come and see for yourself and connect with our admissions counselors really at any time in the process. So with that, I see we've got a couple of additional questions that we can certainly, our team can stick around and answer. One of those being, are dorms or meal plans required? So students who are first-year students that do not meet the requirements for living on campus, or the exemption requirements for living off campus as a first-year student, are required to live on campus. All first-year students living on campus are required to have a meal plan. There are some options there that students can choose from depending on what works best for you. The other question, and I see one of our staff members is jumping in to help and maybe give some more clarity with that question. So I'll move on to the next one, which is, does UNC offer full rides? Full rides, that's like, what exactly does that mean? If we're looking at tuition, housing, meal plans, like absolutely zero cost to the student. I would say it's rare, but it is not unheard of. It typically is a combination of funding. So a student that is absolutely high achieving academically likely would qualify for additional financial aid, maybe bringing in some outside scholarships. If the question is ultimately, is there a way that I can apply and be considered for a full ride? UNC does not. Good question though. Any other questions before we close out tonight's session? Now is the time. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate that you took the time and we look forward to being in touch. Take care.